On Christmas morning, my mom smiled at me and said, "Can you run out and buy ice? We're about to open gifts, and I forgot." I grabbed my coat without arguing. I always did what she asked. When I came back 20 minutes later, the house was loud. Wrapping paper covered the floor. Everyone was laughing. Phones were out. Gifts were already opened. Every gift except mine. I stood there holding the bag of ice while my mom said, "Oh, we thought you weren't coming back yet." Then my dad leaned close and whispered something that made my stomach drop. "You weren't supposed to see this." And that was the moment I realized I had been sent away on purpose. Before we continue, make sure you subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments where you're watching from today. My name is Alara, and in my family, I was always the extra one. Not the favorite, not the problem child either, just the one who filled gaps. I brought food. I cleaned dishes. I drove hours to show up. I stayed quiet when jokes were made at my expense. I told myself that being helpful meant being loved. Christmas at my parents' house always looked perfect. Big tree, warm lights, matching pajamas for everyone except me. From the outside, it looked like a happy family. Inside, there were rules you learned without being told. Lucas, my younger brother, was the center of everything. His wife Tara laughed loudly, like she owned the room. My mom, Diane, floated around acting sweet, but every word she said had weight behind it. My dad, Peter, stayed quiet and avoided eye contact whenever tension showed up. The only person who ever noticed me was my grandmother, Margaret. She used to squeeze my hand and say, "Pay attention, Alara. People show you who they are when they think you don't matter." She passed away 6 months before that Christmas. That morning, I arrived early like always. I helped cook. I set the table. I smiled through the comments. When gifts were placed under the tree, I noticed something strange. There were fewer boxes than usual. I ignored it. I told myself not to overthink. I told myself this year would be different. Then my mom asked me to buy ice. And when I came back, everything had already changed. I stood there with the bag of ice in my hands, unsure where to go. No one rushed toward me. No one said, "You're back." It was like I had walked into a scene that had already ended. Wrapping paper was everywhere. Boxes were torn open and stacked against the wall. My brother Lucas was holding a new watch up to the light while Tara filmed him, laughing like this was the best Christmas ever. My mom stood near the tree, smiling proudly, as if nothing was wrong. I finally said, "Did I miss something?" My voice sounded smaller than I wanted it to. My mom turned toward me slowly. "Oh," she said, like she had just noticed me. "We thought you'd be gone longer. You took your time." "I was only gone 20 minutes, I said. "The store was busy." "Well," she replied, shrugging, "we didn't want to hold everyone up." I looked down at the tree. There was nothing under it. No box tucked away. No tag with my name. I felt my chest tighten, but I told myself not to jump to conclusions. "So where's mine?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. There was a pause. A strange, uncomfortable pause. Tara spoke first. "We didn't see anything for you." Lucas laughed and said, "Maybe Grandma forgot." That word hit me hard. Grandma. She never forgot me. She remembered my birthday every year. She remembered what foods I didn't like. She remembered when no one else did. I felt my face get hot. "She wouldn't forget," I said quietly. My dad cleared his throat. Maybe it got mixed in somewhere, but he didn't look at me when he said it. I turned to my mom. "Did you move it?" She sighed like I was exhausting her. "If there was a gift, it would be here. You're always imagining problems." That was her favorite thing to say. Make me doubt myself. Make me feel foolish for even asking. I stood there longer than I should have, feeling everyone's eyes on me, waiting to see how I would react. I didn't want to ruin Christmas. I didn't want another argument. So I did what I always did. I apologized. "It's fine," I said. "I don't need anything." The relief on my mom's face was immediate. "Good," she said. "Put the ice in the freezer." I walked into the kitchen, my hands shaking. While I was gone, I could hear them laughing again. I heard Tara say something about how peaceful Christmas felt this year. I heard Lucas joke that Grandma always had strange priorities. I waited for someone to say my name. No one did. When I came back, my mom handed me a trash bag. "Can you help clean up?" she asked, pointing at the wrapping paper. I knelt down and started picking it up. That was when the humiliation really hit. Me on the floor, cleaning the mess from gifts I didn't get. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself I was being dramatic, but my stomach hurt and my throat felt tight. My dad walked past me and leaned down slightly. In a low voice, he said, "You should have stayed out longer." I froze. "What?" I whispered. He didn't answer. He just walked away. Stayed out longer. The words replayed in my head, like I had ruined something by coming back too soon. Like there was a plan I wasn't meant to interrupt. I stood up slowly and looked around the room again. This time, I noticed things I hadn't before. My mom kept glancing toward the front door. Tara checked her phone again and again. Lucas wasn't smiling anymore. "Is something going on?" I asked. My mom snapped. "Why do you always make things awkward?" I sat down on the couch, my heart racing. I decided to wait. Whatever was happening, it would reveal itself. I watched my parents whisper to each other. I watched my dad shake his head slightly. I watched Tara stop filming. Then the doorbell rang. Everyone jumped. My mom frowned. Who would come now? She opened the door. A man stood there in a dark coat, holding a leather folder. Calm, professional, completely out of place. "Good morning," he said. "I'm looking for Ilara Knox." The room went silent. My mom laughed nervously. "That's my daughter, but this isn't a good time." He looked past her and straight at me. "It can't wait," he said. "What is this about?" my mom asked, her smile fading. He glanced down at his folder. "Your mother requested this meeting." "My mother?" she said sharply. "Margaret Knox," he replied. My dad sat down hard in his chair. "She passed away," I said. "Yes," the man said. "But she left very clear instructions." Lucas tried to laugh it off. "This is probably about paperwork." The man shook his head. "It isn't." He stepped inside and said something that made my blood run cold. This meeting was always meant to happen after Ilara returned. That was when I realized something terrifying. This Christmas wasn't an accident. It was planned. I sat there frozen, trying to understand what was happening. The lawyer's words kept repeating in my head. This meeting was always meant to happen after I returned. My first thought was that I had misunderstood him. Maybe he meant the paperwork needed my signature. Maybe this was about some small item Grandma left behind. A ring? A letter? Something sentimental. I told myself not to get my hopes up. Every time I expected something from this family, I ended up disappointed. My mom recovered first. She always did. She straightened her back and smiled the way she did when guests were watching. "Why don't we move this to another day?" she said. "This is Christmas morning. We can handle legal things later." The lawyer shook his head calmly. "I was instructed to do this today, before noon." That was the first crack in her control. I saw it in her eyes. A flash of irritation, then fear. My brother Lucas leaned forward. "Is this about Grandma's house?" he asked quickly. "She told me I could have it one day." The lawyer didn't answer him. He opened his folder instead, papers neatly organized. Tabs, notes, the kind of preparation that made my chest tighten. This was not a casual visit. My dad finally spoke. His voice sounded strained. "Ilara, maybe you should go sit down." I almost did. That was my instinct. Stay quiet. Let the adults handle it. But something in me resisted. I stayed where I was, standing, watching. "I'd like Ilara to remain present," the lawyer said. That was also specified. My mom let out a short laugh. "Specified?" she repeated. My mother was very emotional at the end. She changed her mind often. The lawyer looked at her directly. Actually, she changed it very deliberately. The room felt smaller. I could feel everyone's attention shifting toward me. That made me uncomfortable. I had spent my whole life trying not to be the focus. I should have spoken up then. I should have asked what this was about. But I didn't. Instead, I made another mistake. I said, "If this is causing problems, we can stop." My mom looked relieved. "See?" she said. "She understands. We don't need to make a big deal out of this." The lawyer didn't move. "That decision is not yours to make." My dad rubbed his face with both hands. "Please," he said quietly, "let's not do this today." That was when I realized something important. They were afraid. All of them. Not of me. Of what this man knew. I sat down slowly. I told myself to stay calm. If something bad was coming, I wanted to be steady when it arrived. The lawyer flipped to the first page and read my grandmother's full name out loud. Hearing it made my throat tighten. I hadn't heard her name spoken like that since the funeral. She anticipated resistance, he said. That is why she included documentation. My mom snapped, "Documentation of what?" He paused, looked at her, then said, "Of how Alara was treated." My heart started pounding. I hadn't expected that. I thought this was about money or property, not about me. Lucas scoffed. "That's ridiculous." The lawyer pulled out a second folder, thicker. He placed it on the table but didn't open it. "Your mother asked me not to reveal its contents unless necessary." My mom's voice rose. "Necessary for what?" "For compliance," he replied. I felt dizzy. Part of me wanted to stand up and leave. This was becoming too much. Another part of me felt something else. A quiet, unfamiliar feeling. Validation. Like someone had finally seen what I never said out loud. I looked at my dad. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "I didn't know," I said softly. "I didn't ask for this." The lawyer nodded. "She knew that too." That sentence stayed with me. She knew that too. My grandmother knew I would never ask. She knew I would try to give this up just to keep the peace. She had planned for that. My mom crossed her arms. "So what is this really about?" The lawyer took a breath. "It is about intent and timing and choices made today." "What choices?" I asked. He looked at me carefully. "Yours." The room went completely still. My mom stared at me. Lucas looked confused. My dad looked like he was about to cry. "You were sent out of the house this morning," the lawyer continued. "Your grandmother instructed me to observe what happened in your absence and how you responded when you returned." I felt my stomach drop. Observed by who? He glanced at his folder. By several people. That was when I understood. This wasn't just a reading of a will. This was a test. Not just for my family, for me. And I had no idea yet whether I had passed or failed. The lawyer didn't rush. That was the worst part. He didn't deliver. The truth, like a bomb. He let it drip out slowly, watching how everyone reacted. I sat there with my hands folded in my lap, my heart beating so hard I could feel it in my ears. I had no idea what my grandmother had planned, only that it was bigger than I expected. "She anticipated denial," he said calmly. "That is why she prepared evidence." My mom laughed sharply. "Evidence of what? Hurt feelings?" The lawyer finally opened the thick folder and slid a few pages across the table. "Not to me, to my mother. These are written statements," he said. "Notes your mother kept over several years. Dates, times, conversations." My mom didn't touch them. Lucas leaned over and picked one up instead. He skimmed it, then frowned. "This is nothing," he said. "It's just her opinion." The lawyer nodded. "Correct, which is why she also included recordings." The room shifted. My dad's head snapped up. "Recordings?" "Yes," the lawyer replied. "Voicemails, conversations, messages, all legally obtained." My mom's face went pale. "She wouldn't do that." "She did," he said. "And she left instructions for when they should be used." I felt like I was watching a storm form in slow motion. I wanted to stop it. I wanted to stand up and say none of this mattered. But I stayed quiet. For once, I stayed quiet for myself, not for them. The lawyer placed a small device on the table. "This is one example." He pressed a button. My grandmother's voice filled the room, calm, clear, familiar. Ilara asked me once if it was her fault that her mother didn't like her. That was when I knew I had waited too long. My mom shot up from her chair. "Turn that off." The lawyer didn't move. The recording continued. My grandmother talked about holidays where I was given chores instead of gifts, about jokes made at my expense, about silence when I was hurt, about patterns no one wanted to admit. My brother shook his head. "This is ridiculous." Then the lawyer played another clip. It was my mom's voice. "She's too sensitive. If she can't handle it, that's her problem." My dad closed his eyes. I felt something strange inside me. Not anger, not joy. Relief. I hadn't imagined it. I hadn't exaggerated it. Someone else had seen it clearly enough to document it. The lawyer stopped the recording. "There are more," he said, "but they are not necessary." My mom's voice was shaking now. "What does this have to do with the will?" He looked at her. "Everything." He turned to me. Your grandmother believed that inheritance should go to the person who endured the most while asking for the least. Lucas laughed bitterly. So, this is about guilt? No, the lawyer replied. It is about trust. He explained that my grandmother rewrote her will 3 months before she passed. She left the house, her savings, and several investments to one person, not because of blood order, not because of favoritism, because she believed that person would not misuse it. My mom whispered, Lucas. The lawyer shook his head. Not Lucas. The room went completely silent. My heart dropped. Not because I felt excited, but because I felt scared. I didn't want this. I didn't want to be the reason everything fell apart. I didn't ask for anything, I said quickly. I didn't even know. That is precisely why, the lawyer said. He slid a single document toward me. My name was on it. Ilara Knox is the sole beneficiary of Margaret Knox's estate. My mom made a sound I had never heard before. Not anger, not shouting, something like panic. This can't be final, she said. She was old. She was emotional. The lawyer shook his head. She was very clear. Lucas stood up. So what? You just take everything? I finally spoke. I don't want to take anything. The lawyer raised his hand gently. There is one more condition. Everyone froze. Your grandmother instructed that if Ilara attempted to refuse the inheritance in order to keep peace, the estate would still transfer to her, but all communication with the rest of the family would be severed legally and financially. My mom stared at me. She planned this. Yes, he said. She believed you would try to give it up. I felt tears burn in my eyes, not from sadness, from understanding. Even when I tried to disappear, my grandmother had protected me, and there was nothing anyone in that room could do to stop it. No one spoke for a long time after that. The lawyer gathered his papers slowly, like he wasn't in a hurry to leave the damage behind him. My mom sat frozen on the couch, staring at the wall as if the room had stopped making sense. Lucas paced back and forth, running his hands through his hair, muttering under his breath. My dad stayed seated, his shoulders slumped, looking older than I had ever seen him. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel proud. What I felt was empty and calm at the same time, like something heavy had finally been taken off my chest, but it left a strange quiet behind. I had spent so many years trying to earn a place in that family that I didn't know what to do when I realized I never had to fight for it in the first place. My mom was the first to break the silence. She looked at me and said my name like it hurt her mouth to say it. You could fix this, she said. You could tell him you don't want it. Families don't do this to each other. I almost laughed. Almost. Instead, I said, families don't send someone away so they can open gifts without them either. She flinched, not because she felt sorry, but because she had been exposed. My dad finally stood up. His voice was quiet. Your grandmother warned me, he said. She told me if I didn't protect you, she would. That hurt more than anything else that day. Not the missing gift, not the lies. The fact that he had known and still stayed silent. The lawyer cleared his throat. I'll be in touch with next steps, he said, looking at me. You don't need to decide anything today. Everything is already in motion. When he left, the house felt smaller, like the walls had moved in. My mom started crying, not softly, but loudly, the kind of crying that demands attention. Lucas sat down and put his head in his hands. Tara quietly gathered her coat. No one looked at me. I stood up slowly. I'm going to leave now, I said. I think this day is over for me. No one tried to stop me. That told me everything. Outside, the air was cold and sharp. The sky was bright, like it didn't care what had just happened inside that house. I sat in my car for a long time before turning the key. I expected guilt to hit me. I expected regret. Instead, I felt something unfamiliar. Peace. In the weeks that followed, everything changed. There were calls, messages, long emails full of blame, excuses, and sudden affection. I read some. I ignored most. I met with the lawyer again. He explained what my grandmother had left me and why. She hadn't done it out of anger. She had done it out of clarity. She didn't want you to keep shrinking, he told me. She wanted you to be safe. I moved slowly. I didn't rush into anything. I didn't sell the house right away. I spent time in it first. I walked through rooms filled with memories that weren't all bad. I found notes my grandmother had hidden in books and drawers, small messages reminding me to trust myself, to stop apologizing for existing. I did make one mistake. I invited my family to talk, thinking maybe we could find some middle ground. That meeting lasted 20 minutes. They didn't want reconciliation. They wanted control back. That was the moment I finally stopped trying. Today, my life is quieter, healthier. I still think about that Christmas morning sometimes, about the bag of ice melting in my hands, about the empty space under the tree. But I don't feel pain anymore. I feel clarity. What I learned is this: sometimes the people who hurt you the most are the ones who benefit from your silence. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop making yourself small to keep others comfortable. If this story connected with you, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next one. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from. What city are you in right now? I read every comment, and I'd love to hear from you.